Yara Gambarasio was born on May 21, 1997 into a loving and close-knit family in Brembate di Sopra, a small, peaceful location in Bergamo in northern Italy. The small town had a population of roughly 8,000 inhabitants, a small area where neighbors knew each other by name and children could walk freely without fear. Violent crime was virtually non-existent. Yara's parents, Fulvio and Maura, raised their family in a stable, traditional household. Fulvio worked as a construction surveyor and architect. Maura, meanwhile, devoted herself to teaching kindergarten students in the nearby town of Longuelo. Their marriage was strong and rooted in religious faith and traditional values, which they instilled in all their children from an early age. The household was a bustling, loving home filled with 4 children. Kiba, the eldest, was born in 1995, making her 15 at the time of the incident. Yara, the second child, was born 2 years later. Following her came Nathan, who was approximately 9 years old in 2010, and finally the youngest, Joel, who was just 4 years old when tragedy struck the family. The children shared a close bond, though each occupied their own unique role within the family dynamic. According to Fulvio's later court testimony, Yara held a particularly special place within the family structure. He said she was the house mascot, the glue that held us all together. Both parents described her as possessing an exceptional quality that allowed her to bridge the age gaps between her siblings effortlessly. Yara's personality, as described by those who knew her, radiated kindness and warmth. She was the type of child who naturally drew people. Friends and family members consistently described her as responsible, trustworthy, and remarkably mature for her 13 years. From a young age, she discovered and developed a deep passion for rhythmic gymnastics, which combines elements
I never knew what that was. I heard about that like
a
couple days ago. What's the difference between regular gymnastics and rhythmic
training regularly at the Centro Sportivo, a comprehensive sports facility located on Via Bruno Locatelli, just 700 to 800 meters from her family home, a distance that should have taken no more than 8 to 10 minutes to walk. By November 2010, Yara had already achieved considerable success in regional competitions. Though not yet at a national or international level, she was recognized as a promising local gymnastics champion with genuine talent and the potential for future achievements. For Yara, this was far more than just a hobby. It represented a potential pathway to a different future, perhaps even Olympic glory. However, fast forward to Friday, November 26, 2010, everything changed. The day began like any other, with Yara attending school as usual, returning home, and spending time with her family during the afternoon. The household was preparing for the upcoming weekend, and Yara's thoughts were focused on an important gymnastics championship scheduled for Sunday, November 28th. This upcoming competition was significant for Yara and her team. As part of the preparation, the team needed a stereo for their practice sessions and for the competition itself, as rhythmic gymnastics performances are always accompanied by music. Yara had volunteered to bring the sound system from home to the gym, so her teammates and instructor would have it available for their training sessions leading up to Sunday's championship.
Yo, this zoom in is creepy as shit, bro. I'm sorry. I know she's the victim, dog, but goddamn.
She left her family home to walk to her training facility. She was carrying the stereo that her team needed.
Like, I'm trying, my heart is not there. I have to, bro. I feel like it's supposed to stare at my soul, bro.
It was still daylight when she left, though the late November sun was beginning to set. Yara assured her parents that this would be a quick trip. She explained that she wasn't planning to participate in a full training session that evening and was simply delivering the stereo to her instructors so the team could use it. She might do a quick workout while she was there, she mentioned, but she wouldn't be long. Her parents had no reason for concern. Not only was the gym nearby, but Yara was also very communicative, as she would always call or text to let them know if her plans changed or if she would be later than expected. Upon her arrival, she found her teammates and instructor preparing for their practice session. She delivered the sound system as promised, ensuring they would have the equipment they needed. While she was there, and despite having told her parents she wouldn't train extensively, Yara couldn't resist the opportunity to join her teammates for what was described as a quick workout or some light training. The gymnastics instructor would later confirm to police that Yara had indeed been at the facility that evening, that she had delivered the stereo, and that she had done some light training before leaving. According to his account and that of Yara's teammates, she appeared completely normal, happy, engaged, showing no signs of distress, anxiety, or concern. At precisely 6:44 p.m., while still at the sports center, Yara sent what would become her final text message. The recipient was her friend Mariana, a fellow gymnast who would also be competing in Sunday's championship. But just to note, some sources reported this girl as being named Martina. The message was brief and focused on their upcoming competition. Yara was arranging to meet her at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning before the actual event. After sending the text, Yara said goodbye to her teammates and instructor. Multiple people at the gym would later confirm that she departed the facility, though the exact time of her departure varies slightly in different accounts. A critical detail that would severely hamper the subsequent investigation was that the security cameras at the sports center were not operational.
Damn.
The surveillance systems that should have captured
Inside
Yara's
job,
departure recorded nothing because the cameras
off?
were out of order. Additionally, the main entrance doors of the facility were not visible from the indoor practice area where the gymnastics training took place. This meant that while people inside the gym could confirm Yara had been there and had left, no one had actually watched her walk out the door or seen what happened immediately after her departure. At 6:49 p.m., just 5 minutes after Yara sent her a final text message, her cell phone connected to a cell tower in Mapello, a small village located approximately 3 kilometers away from the gym where she had been. This cell tower ping would become one of the investigation's most significant early clues. The location was troubling for multiple reasons. Mapello was in the opposite direction from Yara's home, and the distance was too great for her to have walked in such a short time.
The
cell tower ping at 6:49 p.m. in Mapello would be the last time her phone registered on any network. After that single ping, Yara's cell phone signal vanished entirely, suggesting the phone had been turned off or destroyed. Back at the Gambarasio home,
I think they gotta look. I think that's looking like an
initially
inside
felt
job,
no
man. The
cause
cameras
for
were
alarm
off.
when 7
She got
p.m.
kidnapped
came
right
and
after
went
she
without
left.
their daughter's return.
Dog, that
They
seems
reasoned
like
that
somebody was in
perhaps
there
she had
plotting
decided
something.
to train a bit longer than originally planned. But as time continued to pass without any sign of her, concern began to creep into Maura's mind. Eventually, Maura began calling her daughter's phone. The call went straight to voicemail. It didn't ring first as it would if Yara had simply declined the call or not heard it, but went directly to voicemail, as happens when a phone is turned off or out of service. She tried again and again, but every call went unanswered. The parents exchanged worried looks as Maura continued attempting to reach their daughter while Fulvio considered what to do. At around 7:30 p.m., approximately 20 minutes after Maura's first attempted call to her daughter, Fulvio made the decision to contact the police. A little while after contacting officials, Maura also called the sports center directly, speaking with the authorities at the gymnasium. Her heart sank when she learned that Yara was no longer at the facility and had in fact left a considerable time earlier. This information confirmed their worst fears that something had happened to their daughter. The emergency call was answered by Detective Letizia Ruggeri, a 45-year-old magistrate and former policewoman with an impressive track record. Ruggeri had built her reputation investigating dangerous organized crime, having fought against the Sicilian mafia in some of the most dangerous assignments in Italian law enforcement. Unlike some investigators who might have dismissed the concerned parents with reassurances that teenage girls often come home after staying out late with friends, Ruggeri took the report with immediate seriousness. She understood that when responsible parents of a conscientious 13-year-old report their daughter missing, there is genuine cause for alarm. Within minutes of receiving the call at approximately 7:31 p.m., Ruggeri had dispatched both state police and military police to the area Yara was last seen. Police arrived at the gym and immediately began interviewing Yara's gymnastics instructor and her teammates. The investigators also spoke extensively with the teammate who had received that final text message at 6:44 p.m. She showed them the message on her phone, confirming that Yara was safe prior to her departure. Police launched an immediate search of the surrounding area, deploying officers throughout the town and nearby communities. As the night went by and Yara remained missing, Ruggeri made the decision to bring in K9 units to track human scent and detect blood traces. When these dogs were given items with Yara's scent and set to track her movements, their behavior was immediately revealing. Rather than following the logical, expected route from the sports center toward Yara's home, the dogs headed in a different direction entirely.
No shit, you said the
she was headed
phone
toward
was in
the same Mapello where Yara's cell phone had pinged a tower at 6:49 p.m. The dogs eventually led searchers to a shopping mall construction site approximately 2 kilometers from the gym. The dog's interest in this location prompted police to conduct an extensive search of the construction area, but they found no sign of Yara. Still, the location was noted as potentially significant. The next day, Ruggieri ordered wiretaps on the Gambarasio family's home phones, standard procedure in missing person cases to rule out the possibility that family dysfunction or hidden secrets might have prompted a voluntary disappearance. She also ordered an examination of records for over 15,000 mobile phones that had been registered through cell towers in Yara's hometown and the surrounding villages during the relevant time period, looking for any patterns or suspicious movements. The family cooperated fully with every aspect of the investigation, despite the intrusion and implicit suspicion. As investigators listened to the wiretap conversations, they realized that this was a loving and stable family with strong bonds and no dark secrets. There were no arguments, no signs of abuse, no evidence of family problems that might drive a teenager to run away or harm herself. Then on February 26, 2011, exactly 3 months after her disappearance, came the heartbreaking discovery. A man flying a remote-controlled airplane over an empty field near Cignolo di Sola spotted a body. The location was an abandoned field in an industrial area approximately 10 kilometers from Yara's home. The finding was reported to officials who confirmed that the individual was indeed the missing girl they had been looking for. Close to her body, investigators found her iPod, house keys, and the SIM card and battery from her cell phone, though the phone itself was never recovered. The condition of the body provided crucial but disturbing evidence about Yara's final hours. Her body was found in an advanced state of decomposition, having been exposed to harsh weather conditions for 3 months. The autopsy revealed that she had suffered at least 6 cuts across her lower back, wrists, and neck. She also had wounds on her face and a significant injury on the back of her head. However, none of these individual wounds were lethal.
I'm gonna be honest. You gotta chill with these images, bro. Some of these shits be catching me off guard, man. And you got me with that one. You got me with that one. I ain't gonna jump.
And
Scream.
Hypothermia from
you gave a little shot to the heart with that one.
Temperatures. Evidence suggested that Yara had been attacked and then abandoned in the field, where she died slowly and alone in the cold. Investigators found grass clutched in her hand, confirming that she had died at that location and her body had not been moved there post-mortem.
She got
Significantly, there was no
in the lower back,
of completed
in her wrists,
However, her bra had been found unhooked and positioned next to her body rather than on it.
I was gonna say it could be one of her
motive that was either interrupted or not carried
teammates
through.
on the gymnastics
autopsy also revealed
she got kidnapped right out of gymnastics.
Clues.
Cameras were
Traces of lime were found in
like I've never heard of a murder doing something like that. It looked like almost like they wanted to fake a suicide and shit. Like you cut up her wrists, her neck, and her lower back.
Killer might be involved
like the only killings I've heard of, it's like they just get stabbed.
Multiple DNA profiles
stabbed in the neck or stabbed all over, like cut.
Ultimately identifying 11 different DNA traces, of which only 2 would ever be conclusively identified and attributed to specific individuals. The most significant forensic evidence came from male DNA recovered from Yara's underwear and leggings. Although there was no evidence of assault, the DNA's location on such clothing suggested physical contact between the victim and her attacker. Forensic scientists analyzed this DNA and created a profile that investigators dubbed Unknown 1. The DNA profile of Unknown 1 did not match anyone in Yara's family, her circle of friends, or any existing criminal databases. In spring 2011, Italian investigators launched an unprecedented mass DNA screening operation. They began by taking DNA samples from everyone who entered a local nightclub on Friday and Saturday nights, hoping to find an identity to match their profile. This would eventually expand into the largest DNA dragnet in Italian history, with investigators collecting and analyzing between 18 and 27,000 DNA samples from men in the surrounding areas. The investigation was extraordinarily expensive, becoming the most costly manhunt in Italian history. After testing thousands of samples without finding a direct match,
why are all these fucking images blurry, dog? You're fucking up my eyes.
One DNA sample collected outside the nightclub showed significant similarities to Unknown 1, though it wasn't an exact match. The sample belonged to a man named
a little pitchy. I'm tired. I'm about to fall asleep. I don't know why. His fucking voice, man. Damn, dog. Why you gotta?
Possibly an uncle
like
or
reading the
distant
bedtime
cousin.
and shit.
However,
bro.
Damiano had an airtight alibi. On the day Yara disappeared, he was in South America and couldn't possibly have been involved, but the familial connection was undeniable, and this led investigators down a genealogical rabbit hole. Ruggeri and her team compiled a complete family tree of the DNA sample that traced back to 1815, mapping every single family member with genetic ties to the same lineage. This work revealed that Damiano Gerinoni's father had a brother named Giuseppe Gerinoni, a bus driver who had died in 1999, 11 years before Yara's murder. In September 2011, investigators visited Giuseppe's widow, Laura Poli. From her, they obtained DNA samples from 2 postage stamps that Giuseppe had licked and affixed to cards. The DNA analysis of these stamps revealed something remarkable. Giuseppe was overwhelmingly likely to be the biological father of Unknown One, but there was a problem.
What?
Giuseppe and Laura had 3 children together, but none of them matched Unknown One's DNA profile. What? The only logical explanation was that Giuseppe had fathered an illegitimate child somewhere, and that child was the killer. Yara's family, desperate for answers and concerned about the reliability of DNA obtained from postage stamps, hired a private geneticist named Giorgio Portera. Portera argued that the initial DNA comparison was insufficient. He provided a recommendation to investigators, and on March 7, 2013, Giuseppe's body was exhumed from his grave. This time, scientists conducted a far more extensive analysis, comparing 29 STR regions between Giuseppe's DNA and Unknown One. The results were conclusive and left no room for doubt. Giuseppe was definitively the biological father of Yara's killer. Now, investigators faced the challenge of finding Giuseppe's illegitimate son. They began meticulously investigating his life, discovering that he had been known among friends as something of a ladies' man who had engaged in secret affairs. Giuseppe had worked as a bus driver for many years, transporting women to factories where they worked, and investigators theorized that the mother of Unknown One could have been one of these passengers. Many women who had worked in the factories and taken Giuseppe's bus were interviewed, but initially
I thought he was about to say taking Giuseppe's butt. I'm like, hold up, dog.
Reached another
what are you
potential
trying to
dead
say?
end. However, in 2014,
a
critical breakthrough occurred when one of the interviewed workers, whose identity was protected by police and remains unknown to this day, revealed the name of Esther Arzoufi. Born in 1947, Esther was a woman who had married Giovanni Bassetti around 1966. In the late 1960s, Esther had been a neighbor of Giuseppe's family and worked at a textile factory in the region, taking Giuseppe's bus every day. When investigators tested Esther's samples, they found a genetic mutation in the mitochondrial DNA that was present in both Esther's profile and in Unknown One, but which had not been present in Giuseppe. Since mitochondrial DNA is inherited solely from the mother, this proved that Esther was Unknown One's biological mother. Records showed that in fall 1970, Esther had given birth to twins, a boy and a girl. While hiding the true paternity from her husband Giovanni, she had given the boy the middle name Giuseppe as a secret tribute to his biological father.
Fuck? Yo, I'd be pissed, dog. What the fuck, dog?
DNA testing later revealed that none of Esther's 3 children were biologically fathered by Giovanni. Giovanni had raised all 3 children as his own, completely unaware that they were not his biological offspring. He would only learn this devastating truth through the investigation into Yara's murder, receiving the news toward the end of his life while battling a terminal illness. Giovanni died at age 73.
Shout out to Giovanni,
man.
Day God damn.
By June 2014, investigators had identified Massimo as their primary suspect. Born on October 28, 1970, the 43-year-old worked as a carpenter and bricklayer in the construction industry. He lived with his wife, Marita Comey, and their 3 children in Mapello, which is the same town where Yara's cell phone had given off its last signal on the night of her disappearance. On June 16, 2014, police set up a fake roadblock in Mapello under the guise of drunk driving checks, but actually designed as a ruse to obtain Massimo's DNA without his knowledge. When he stopped at the roadblock, officers collected his DNA from materials he touched or used during the breathalyzer test. The sample was immediately sent to the crime laboratory for urgent analysis, and it was revealed that Massimo's DNA was a perfect match for Unknown One. After nearly 4 years of investigation, police finally had their suspect. He was arrested on June 16, 2014, while working to fix the roof of an attic. According to reports, he attempted to flee when officers came to arrest him, which resulted in him being denied bail while awaiting trial. He would remain in custody from that point forward. When confronted with the DNA evidence, Massimo provided an explanation that investigators found implausible. He claimed he suffered from frequent nosebleeds and suggested that his blood could have gotten on a box cutter or other work tools, which someone might have stolen and used in the crime. In making this statement, he inadvertently acknowledged that the DNA was actually his and did not contest the validity of the tests, a concession that significantly strengthened the prosecution's case. Additionally, the investigation into his life brought numerous intimate family secrets to light, causing additional trauma to his family. When Massimo was arrested, he learned for the first time that Giovanni Bossetti, the man who had raised him, was not his biological father. This revelation was devastating, and he was later quoted saying, "Even if I'm not his biological son, he is my father, the only person who is by my side, who raised me and always loved me. I continued to call him Dad. He always came to visit me in prison." When confronted with the DNA evidence proving Giuseppe's paternity, Massimo's mother Esther initially refused to acknowledge the truth. She maintained until her death that all 3 of her children were fathered by Giovanni, despite the overwhelming scientific evidence.
Bro, you said that shit like it had something to do with the murder, dog.
Later said the following in regards to his mother. "For 44 years, she hid something terrible from me. I told her to look me in the eyes, and I explained that I had the right to know the truth, as did my siblings. I also told her it wouldn't have mattered to me if she had a relationship in the 1960s or 70s. But Esther never admitted the
family
truth,
reunion,
taking the secret
Jerry
to her
Springer,
grave
like,
when
dog,
she
there's a
died
fucking
in
murder.
April
Let's get back to the murder.
2018 at age 71. Adding to the family's public humiliation, it emerged during the trial that Massimo's wife Marita had engaged in affairs with at least 2 men. These affairs apparently occurred after his arrest, while Marita continued to visit him in prison and publicly support him. On April 27, 2015, the trial began in the Court of Assizes in Bergamo. Massimo was charged with murder with aggravating circumstances. Throughout the proceedings, he pleaded not guilty to the abduction and killing, consistently maintaining his innocence. Ultimately, on July 1st, 2016, at age 46, Massimo Bossetti was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. He was also convicted of second-degree murder and another related count of violence. In the following years, he attempted to appeal the conviction several times, but in the end, his conviction was ruled final. Following his definitive conviction, Massimo and his defense team continued fighting for access to the evidence and permission to conduct independent DNA testing. In November 2019, his lawyers requested a review of the DNA evidence, but this motion was rejected in March 2021.